Welcome back to SewGrannySew. I'm glad you're all here. We are going to finish up this quilt. I was having major issues with direct and so forth while it was laying flat, and I would normally move it to my kitchen floor and tape the backing down and so forth. I can no longer do that due to the arthritis, so I have decided to make do and hang this from a curtain rod. So I just have it clamped on. I have already got 2 of the rows tied in. The back is laying nice and flat. The front is laying nice and flat. So we are going to continue on finishing up the last 5 rows, and then I will meet you back at the table to get this trimmed up. So we finally have this all hand tied at each of the intersections. I am going to, once we get it finished, go back and put another tie in between because this is poly batting. So right now we're looking at probably 8 to 10 inches apart, and you want at least 6 inches, 4 to 6 inches when you're using poly batting to ensure that it doesn't, you know how when you wash something with, say like an old pillow, and you wash it and the polyester inside bunches up, it will do the same in a quilt if you don't have it tied properly. So now that we have it all hand tied, we're just going to go along the edges, and I don't know if you can see that corner where I'm going to start at there. So we're just going to go along the edges and we're going to cut it off. I'm going to flatten that and make sure it's nice and flat. And then we're going to cut right along that edge. But I am going to try to save this, so I'm going to cut into it this way first. Okay, so then we're just going to go along the edge. It's laying nice and flat because we are going to put the binding right on that edge. So I reuse my leftover batting such as that to use for stuffies or, smaller projects. And of course we have plenty enough material there that we can still get quilt squares or strips out of that. So we'll definitely be saving that. So now we're just going to turn our blanket and do the same with each of the other 3 sides. If you're working with something and it wants to slide like that, you can always put something heavy to hold that in place, which is my iron here handy. So I'll just set that in the middle, making sure not to cut that cord as I go. And then once again, we will just flatten that out and cut right along that edge. Okay, and I'll just keep working my way around until we get it all trimmed up, and then I'll bring you back and show you how to put the binding on. Now our binding strips that we pre-cut. So they are just selvage to selvage strips. So we need to attach these together. So we're just going to go end to end on the strips and put a 1/4 inch seam in there and press that open. You don't want to miter them, so it's just end to end on these. And we're going to go ahead and do that to all the strips. Once we're done, we're going to fold those in half, wrong sides together, and iron that flat. So as I iron these open, I will also iron this. And then I will meet you back here and we'll get this pinned under the quilt top. I have the binding sewn together in strips, and then I just folded it in half and ironed it flat. So now we're going to start by attaching the binding to the back of the quilt. So we need to flip this over. So when you're attaching your binding, I don't start mine at the corners. Some do. I think it's recommended mainly not to do it because of the fact that, well, let me get this slid down a little bit. Because of the fact that then you're fighting the corners to get your pleat or your miter in there as well for your mitered corner. So you're just going to, it's not showing up yet. Okay, so you're just going to take your binding, you're going to lay it on the back. Now, some people pin it. I'm going to use clips because they're more, I can take them off and maneuver a little bit better if it's just clips instead of pins. So if you got an exact cut on your fabric at the edge of your quilt top, you can just line it up with that. I do not have an exact one, and I really don't make it exact, I guess. But you're just going to go along and you're going to pin it down. Once you get it all pinned on, you're going to take it to the sewing machine and you're going to put a 1/4 inch seam on that. So when you get to the corners, you are going to miter the corners. So I'm going to go ahead and bring you into the sewing room and put you up next to the sewing machine so you can see how it works when we get to a corner to get that done. And then after we get it all sewn on, then I'll show you how we're going to flip it around and sew the front down. So I'm going to go ahead and bring this into the sewing room and we'll get started attaching this binding. Okay, we are at the sewing machine now. I have the binding on the back. When you start it off, you're going to go down a little bit, leave a good inch or so loose that you're not going to sew down at the end. That's so you can finish the two ends of the binding together when you get to that point. So I'm just kind of snugly pulling my top layer. Remember, we have it tied, so it's only going to pull from that spot on. So we're going to snugly pull that forward, and we're going to make sure the backing is nice and taut. We're going to line up that binding right at the edge of that, and we're going to put a 1/4 inch seam in it, and we are going to go all the way along. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. We are going to back stitch at the beginning. And we'll keep readjusting as we need to. So I am using poly batting, as I stated, which gives a higher loft to this. If you are using the cotton poly, which I tend to use mainly, but I am trying to use this up. So if you're using the poly cotton batting, the 80/20, it's a little bit lower loft on it, a little bit easier to work with. That is what I'm trying to get down to, is just that batting to work with, but I do have this row of poly I'm trying to finish up. Just take it slow and easy all the way along. I will finish getting this done, and when I get to the corner, then I'll bring you back and show you how to do the mitered corners. All right, close to the corner now. So what we're going to do is we're going to have our binding open like that, just like we were attaching it. We're going to make sure our corners are set into place on both the bottom fabric and the quilt top. And we are going to sew down a 1/4 inch away from the end. And then we're going to back stitch. So we do want to keep track of where a 1/4 inch away from the end would be at. You can either mark that. Then once you have that done, you're going to back stitch that a little bit. Then we have that done. We're going to go ahead and we are going to turn our quilt. We're going to fold that back. Line that up with, whoops. Line that up with this edge where it's folded at the point. Then we are going to line it up with the edge of the quilt and fold it back. Now we're going to go ahead, put that back onto the sewing machine. Make sure we're laying nice and smooth everywhere. Line that up with the edge of our quilt, and we are going to continue sewing that down. Okay, so I'm going to get all the way around the quilt, and when I get to the end where we got to connect the two ends of the binding together, I will bring you back and show you how to do that part. So we are at that final corner now. I have something funky going on with this corner, but I can't figure it out yet, so we're just going to play it by ear here. So we got two ends here. We trimmed this down to, about the same as what that one is. So we're just going to go to where it's sewn on, and we are going to fold that one back so it lays flat, and we have a finished edge on that. And then we'll go ahead and we'll lay this one over top, and we'll go ahead and sew that as normal. Now that we have the full back sewn on, I'll bring you over to the table and we'll go ahead and move forward with the next step. Okay, as long as we're here, before we get it all laid out, I did want to show you. So our corner looks like that. That's what I said. There's something messed up going on with my corner there. But as you can see, then when you flip it over, it forms that mitered corner. Whoops, get that extra string out of the way. It forms that nice mitered corner on there. So I just wanted to show you that quick. We'll get this laid out and then we'll go ahead and get that brought over to the front, fold that under and pin that into place so we can get it sewn together. Okay, you will have to forgive the robe today. Our heater just went out earlier and we noticed it getting cold last night. And so we haven't had anybody to look yet. It is 30 or 25 degrees today here in Minnesota. And feels like 12 degrees. So it's pretty chilly. I do got 3 space heaters going. So it's warming up a little bit. So what we're going to do first is any of those places where I couldn't figure out what is going on with these corners, I'm going to go ahead and trim those down because right up close to that seam, 1/4 inch away, because you don't have any room for that binding otherwise, because you only got so much binding there to work with. So as you can see, let me get some of these threads trimmed up here. Okay, so I am going to use my clips for this. We're going to go ahead, we're going to flip that over. And remember, we mitered that corner, so we do have that fold to contend with. So when I want to make sure you can see that there. So when we go to put that down, we need to fold that in, fold that over, and meet the edge of that, and then flip that over. We do want to make sure it's covering up that seam that we put in from the back side. Then we'll just clip those into place. And a really good use for these clips is when you go to do the binding, it beats putting all these pins in because you get stuck so many times if you got stick pins instead. So we're just going to go along and we are going to fold that over and pin that into place all the way around the quilt. So I got that part done. I want to do a little bit on this side and then we'll show you how to do that corner. So where you have that overlap, you're just going to make sure that you fold that over as well and then it lays nice and flat. So when you get to the end, you can just fold that over. Make sure you're holding that flat where you already folded the other side. And then flip that around. So once we get this all the way around, get it folded over and pinned into place all the way around, you will just go along it and stitch right close to the edge of this, making sure to hold it down. If you wanted to, you can use the back side. I just like to do it on the front side. I don't care if there's a stitching line around there. But if you do, you can just do a straight stitch according to where the back seam is at. And that's up to you how you want to do it. There's several different ways to do the binding from there on out. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get this all pinned on, get it sewed down, and I will bring you back to show you the finished quilt. Okay, so I have it finished now. It is a fairly nice size. It looks maybe toddler crib size, a little bit longer than that, but the width is definitely about the size I make for a crib. Get down the road, I'm going to go ahead and get some burgundy that matches that color. I'll give you a close-up of that fabric. We've been working at such a distance, you haven't really seen it. But I'm going to get some burgundy that matches that to do the inside of the each individual square, tying it up. I did use a cream color to go on this gold, so that blends in fairly well. The back is burgundy. I don't know, maybe maroon, I would say, rather than burgundy, because this is burgundy here. So yeah, it's 43-ish by 63-ish is the best measurement I can give it. So yeah, definitely let me know in the comments below what you guys think of this one. Uh, there was a few things I learned with this one. If I do more 3-yard quilts, which I fully intend to because I have quite a few of the books now, I will definitely make sure I use uh, fabric that I have a little more than a yard in case there is a mistake in cutting, because it shows you how to lay it out on your fabric, where to cut which piece from. And you do use pretty much the full yard of them, of your fabrics. So if you are new to quilting or are afraid of making mistakes like I am, you do want to have a little bit extra. And then also it gives you a place in the books where you can put a bigger binding on. This binding was super small, as you can see, so it doesn't give you much of a binding. That was really hard to work with that, especially if you're a beginner quilter. So you may want to look at those different measurements. You can use maybe do a 3-inch binding or something, however, that way when you fold it up, it gives you a little bit more of a binding. Um, I would definitely add borders on them to make them bigger because they're not far off of the size I normally make. I normally make 60 by 72. So if you added up 2, 3 borders on it, you would be fine, one of each color. But then make sure you cut the extra binding you would need for that as well. We have yet to finish our Christmas panel quilt, which we will be posting this coming up Friday. So be sure to check that one out. And then we're going to go ahead and work on some odd and end things and get them done on, finished up, as well as maybe a few more quilt blocks. As always, guys, if you found this video useful, go ahead and give it a big thumbs up. It really helps our channel grow. If you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and hit that subscribe button because we'd love to have you here at SewGrannySew. Thanks all. Have a good day. Bye.